Yes, I can. There we go. No one cared about that other stuff anyway. All right, so we're going to do our agenda for today. We've got a lot going on. The purpose of the SSA, we've got some website updates. We're going to go over the conversation about Duncan Holbert and Renaissance. We're going to do fiscal. We're going to look at the whole capacity study. And we're going to end with a facilities condition constraint implications draft, which is really our first thing of putting pieces of data together for you as we go. So here's the purpose of the SSA. Let's just take a minute to read through that. This was what we started with. Was it a month ago now? Clearly, I like the quote. Thumbs up on we're good. All right, so we also remember we did this last time, and this is the data review, pulling everything together, and then the developing options and working through that, and then the process to whatever happens in the end. Right, and so we're going through a process, and I know it's slow and painful, of pieces of information that will build upon one another so that we all have the knowledge to make informed decisions. Is anyone in this room an expert on sustainable schools? No. We have a lot to learn, a lot to work through together, and if we start thinking we're experts and we can make a decision tomorrow, we're never going to come out with a good recommendation. And I can tell you how many people read stories in the newspaper about school districts that do committees like this, maybe consolidation or closure, and they all go bad, right? They're not like, oh, this is just a perfect, harmonious, logical decision-making process. It's not, right? So we have to know that, and we have to be grounded in the information as the committee to go through that. So the purpose is clear. And your scope is clear. Your scope is not this big, right? Our scope is here. Everything that happens in the school district is not our scope. Our scope is right here. With that, the SSA process is a work in progress. Again, if this was easy and we could just give you all the information at one time, we would do that, right? But again, we're developing the information. We're putting it all together. And if this, again, was easy and we had all the information, we probably would have done this a couple years ago, right? So what we're doing is we're building that as we're going, right? And and what happens is, we're going to see this, is we're giving you pieces of information so you're informed, and then at the end, we'll show you, and then we start stacking those pieces onto one another. So if we don't do the work in the beginning and we try and stack it all on, what's going to happen? You're going to go, I don't know what this is. So again, this is a building process, which is why, we ask you all to be here, to familiarize with the information. That's why we all have it. And again, some decisions are outside of the scope of the SSA. You just have to realize that, and that the board makes decisions. And they many times won't ask you whether that decision should be made. All right, so any discussion on the purpose of the SSA and why we're here, what's going on? Topics of conversation. Everybody good? 5, great. Okay, so we are updating the website to try and make it more user-friendly, to get to many of the topics and conversations that you have and that you put in the parking lot or in the other area. And Vero, you're going to give me the parking lot, and she's gone. Okay. So we've now changed frequently asked questions and requested documents to the top, so that it's all going to be in one place instead of putting it in folder after folder, which is the good thing. And this is that first process. And so we're putting all the questions, documentation. We are not going to answer every question with a full 5-page paragraph and presentation. What we will do is address when it will be addressed or when it has been addressed. So an example, will the evaluation rubric be discussed on June 10th, right? So we're bringing some evaluation things on June 10th. So we'll connect it to that presentation, right? As we go through. So we're working through that. Again, the parking lot is the important part of the work. And we're gonna make my life easy. Let me just take a second here. Okay, so again, over here is the parking lot. You're gonna put the information in the request. If the item can be easily answered, we're going to, prepare that without a lot of clarification, or we're gonna say it's gonna be at a future time. Or did you have that piece of paper for me? Sorry. Yeah. Thank you so much. I don't have to hold it in my hand anymore. Okay, so the questions that we got last time is what are the percentage of special ed needs students going outside of the district? So that's a ton of information relative to non-public schools and a variety of other things. So we'll be providing that at a future date. What enrollment do we have at our ECE programs? There's a couple of questions on that. That'll be information at a later date. So this one is kind of a sarcastic one. Will the committee be coming up with options on what schools to close, or will it be presented with the menu generated by the superintendent and her vision and other options, right? So the idea is the superintendent doesn't run this committee, but it's advisory to the committee, right? And what we're gonna see when we work through that is we actually have MGT who will be working with us to show us different configurations and boundaries and other things live, right? Which we will react to, right? And so we'll be going through that. Again, none of us are experts at this. We're gonna bring the experts in to do that for us. How many of the portables presented in the district we'll get rid of and when? We're gonna have a full portable presentation, which will bring that forward. What information do you have on intern districts that were denied? We'll be presenting the findings in November instead of December when we'll have new board members. This committee doesn't matter who's on the board. That's not your job. The board members, no matter who they are the ones that will accept your recommendations and then at some point do something with it, right? And more than likely, we're behind.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Respectfully, that was a great question because the work that we are doing is going in front of the board members November, right? And we want it to go in front of the board members that are going to be making the decision and facing the decision made in December. Thank you.
Also, Also, with all due respect and a gentle reminder, our team here decided on certain norms to not be judgmental, to not be judged. And you just referred to one of the questions as sarcasm. And I don't think we're being sarcastic. We're being very realistic in terms of what our purpose is. And I do have more to say when we get to item number 3.
sorry, just really quick, it's June 10th, right? Not June 1st. June 10th, okay, thanks.
Right, and you think about it, you don't like that guy anymore? All right, so we have a lot to go through today. Again, lots of questions, lots of thoughts. We're gonna shoulder partner. We're not gonna call on everybody. We're gonna ask, certain people to help with their group, but everybody's voice should be heard, not just one person's or another. I want as many people having a conversation about what's needed moving forward. So we are now gonna jump into, I think, the board presentation that we had previously, you had last week. We're gonna bring it up here.
The other one, so that's great. Not that one either? Well, it says Renaissance. So, yeah. Alrighty, thank you. Again, I'm Peggy Pugh, Executive Director for Student Support Services. This is the same presentation that was given on May 20th at the board meeting. It's attached to the school board agenda from May 20th as well. So I'll jump right in. And our mission and vision, as we've discussed, we always need to ground ourselves in those. For this specific presentation, it focuses, on academic excellence, climate, culture, and community, and fiscal responsibility. And gonna jump right into the reason that this was brought to the school board as a proposal, and again, it's a proposal, and just kind of that overarching construct around the work of the SSA, as Bill was talking about. The SSA has a pretty finite lane to live within, but we wanted to share this information with you. So as part of that process of this proposal being considered by the school board, it went to the school board, it's coming here so you can hear a little bit about it, and then it can go back to the school board, because that's the work of the school board. For Renaissance High School in particular.
Sorry, Peggy, I want to interrupt because I think if you look at the minutes or notes from the school board meeting, the school board was pretty clear that this should be incorporated into the work of the SSA, right? Which is a little different than what I just heard you say.
So this whole discussion tonight is part of that. That's why we're here. Yeah, and it was always a part of the plan for that to happen.
It's not jumping our process and coming back with a proposal in a month. It's incorporating it into the broader SSA process, right?
Yes, so
we're coming back with recommendations in November, and why would we jump with a earlier recommendation on this if that's not the process?
Well, I think it's great analysis. Let's let her finish, and then let's have that at the end. Yeah.
Just very different than what the director was
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, so.
I have one really quick, sorry Peggy. Was this the same presentation that was presented to staff in Duncan Holbert on May 15th, that Friday? No, it was something different? Okay, thank you.
No presentation, yeah. Alrighty, so for Renaissance High School in particular, it is a water safety and infrastructure concern with the high chromium 6 levels, and connecting Renaissance High School's water to Soquel Creek Water. The estimate is around a $3 million project, and a timeline of around 2 years, knowing that with anything, when we look at construction, that timeline is an estimate, and it could be longer, and the fiscal cost could be higher. Attendance and engagement was a concern. Transportation barriers, specifically the annual cost of transportation to bring our students to Renaissance High School is around $250,000. And the fiscal impact of the running a program at Renaissance High School is quite large in comparison to other schools. But the water safety and infrastructure is the primary concern. That is something that is a fixed concern that we really can't mitigate through other measures. So the opportunity and proximity concern, the students who attend Renaissance High School largely are being bused from Watsonville to La Selva Beach to attend there, and that just means long days on the bus, 2.5 hours a day round trip. So those are some of the concerns that led to that. Part of the presentation the other night was a comparison of Renaissance Continuation High School with just another continuation high school, this one in Salinas. And of course, this is just part of the consideration, but again, back to the biggest concern, honestly, as we've been looking at this situation there, is the chromium-6 water issue as the primary driver of the health and safety issue.
So as we looked at this, we did also make a proposal. Hi, I'm Heather Gorman. I'm the SELPA director, if you don't know who I am. So we made the proposal thinking about where could Renaissance go and what would it take to make something like that work. And when we looked at it, we thought, could we move Duncan Holbert preschool program and early start to be at their schools or at elementary school sites? So of course, when you're looking at this, you have to do research. Is this something that is research-based? Is it something that other school districts have done? And they have, and it is something that has been very successful in other school districts where the preschool students actually start at preschool alongside other preschool students at the school and can actually stay at the school until they're in 5th or 6th grade. And so that is a wonderful opportunity for them to have less transitions. Yes.
Do we know if those other districts offer a full continuum of services within those general ed preschools like we do at Duncan Holbert?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I think that is something that is worth looking into. It's a good question when you're looking at how do the preschool programs actually operate and for having the students stay there and moving on at that same school site. So we were looking at relocating special education preschools to the elementary school sites. It creates a stable continuum for them. This integration allows special education students to experience school alongside general education peers. I do know they're also doing that now at Duncan Holbert, but that doesn't mean that can't also happen at elementary schools. And it's also a community school model, and fewer transitions lead to greater educational success. And the community schools model focuses on building lasting relationships at a single site over time to improve student outcomes. So those were some of the thoughts and ideas that went into looking at moving the preschool program to elementary sites.
So in order to even consider a relocation, a feasibility study was conducted. The capacity of Duncan Holbert is around 200 students. The current Renaissance site capacity is also a little over 200. Compliance, an architect is currently reviewing the requirements for both schools. It would be summer work to remodel in preparation for Renaissance High School. And then future work would, of course, there are many opportunities for future work there as well in terms of the site size and scope. This is an example. So this is an architect's rendering of what could be done. And so this is a little hard to see when you're so far away from the screen, but it is attached to our materials for tonight. So this is just, it's part of the presentation. So you could zoom in on that to take a look. But several potential upgrades and changes, including over on the my right, your left, a separate, there is already a separate entrance to Duncan Holbert, but we could look at relocating the entrance to the other side of the building. So there's multiple things that can be done.
And so as we looked at the feasibility here for moving Duncan Holbert, we had to look at a few different sites. So we looked at Ansoldo, Hyde, Landmark, Ohlone. And when you're thinking about Duncan Holbert as a whole, it's not just the preschool classes that are involved. There's also an early start team. There's a preschool assessment clinic that is all housed there. They have facilities and play yards that are at Duncan. So we were looking at a few different options when it came to that. One of the renderings that we did come up with, and again, this was just one as a possibility to, show some of our thinking, is at HA Hyde, it's actually called the CC building, and there's 4 different classrooms with a nice center area. The classrooms all have smaller bathrooms in them already. The classrooms are connected, and it's kind of a nice space. And I was thinking, when we're looking at something like this, is it possible to have a state preschool program and Duncan Holbert, so we could continue some of the good work that we've already started there at Duncan Holbert? So we looked at this as one of the possibilities.
Okay, so at this point in time, we're gonna ask that you turn to your elbow partners and discuss what you saw. If you wanted to pull up the materials on, to look at the map, you're welcome to do that. And we'll take about 5 minutes to have a short discussion in your table groups. And then we'll come back with some discussion as a full group, answer some questions for the ones that we can't answer. And then we'll take questions to the parking lot so that we can come back with those. I'll set a timer. I think it is. Alrighty, thank you.
All right, let's look at the back corner of the room back here. What thoughts did you guys have? Back corner, right here. This is Brandon. What your thoughts? Any thoughts?
Yeah, my thought that I shared was this is bullshit. Like, this is
We
wrong.
probably aren't gonna do that because there's kids in the room, so
Well.
I would refrain from that.
Well, I mean, I'm just being honest. I don't think our state preschools have a continuum of services that they have at Duncan Holbert. I think we would be predetermining students' needs as early as 3 years old, and I think this whole thing is wrong. I think that the board and community was very clear that they don't want to see this come back to the June 17th board meeting. I don't know if we have any ability as a body to make a motion, but I would motion that this not come to the board on June 17th, and we take the time that we have to come up with a better plan.
Yeah, it's not coming to the June 17th meeting.
It said so on that last slide.
Well, these are the same slides that were presented at the board meeting, so.
Well, either way, can we make a motion to make that like a firm declaration that this will not show up on the June 17th board meeting?
Well, I don't think that,
I don't think it's
I'll work
necessary.
with John, but I don't think that's a way to keep done.
Hey, we're starting off pretty rough tonight, folks. And I'm not pointing the finger. I mean, I heard the sarcastic comment, and I didn't like that one either, okay? I thought, well, let's tone it all down, okay? And then Brandon, you come up with a bullshit comment. I'm like, now it's like firing up. And if we're gonna work together and make any progress, we gotta work together, and saying it in a way that, feels respectful at least. Okay, and I know you're passionate, union leader, you got a lot on the table, and I've read some of your other comments, and I'm not faulting you at all. You gotta do your job, but if we're gonna make any progress, we're not gonna make progress by fighting each other tonight, or any night. So, I had some of the same questions that you're asking. Why is this here? What are we doing? Did the board send us here? I seem to be hearing mixed messages from the presentation. I wasn't quite sure about that. What is it? So, just tone down the rhetoric just a little bit so we can, because everyone gets all puffed up. Let's not get all puffed up, please. So, please, I don't want to be like paternalistic in all this and make you feel like I'm putting anybody down, because I'm really trying to be respectful and get everyone to work together. We got to work together, okay?
Are you, okay. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Just a question. What does a MGT do? The program that's gonna help us?
So MGT is the group that did the enrollment projections,
Uh-huh.
and with that, they have a GI. So they're the ones that did the enrollment projections for us, and the software that they have is GIS boundary software where the students live and works together with districts throughout the United States to put together boundaries for schools and this process.
Okay, it's just for me, like when I see this, I feel like I thought like they were supposed to kind of help us through this process, and like I just feel this is put on us again. I feel like you, and I want to be nice, but I just feel like we should be talking about the other schools as well. This was presented already, and like they said at the board meet, like most of the board members said no. So I'm very confused why can you just explain to me why we're going through this again?
Number one reason why we're going through this is not everybody watches a board meeting. Not everybody, and our goal here is to talk about these things. This may be ahead of the game, but our goal is to talk about that. But the most important thing is with MGT and the others, and that's like, what's our scope? Our scope is really schools with boundaries, right? Our scope is schools with boundaries, because all of the K-12 schools that we have are fed by a boundary, and we know from the study that there's not enough students in that boundary. There's also schools that have no boundary that are district-wide. Those are programmatic schools, right? And we're going to talk about the program, the right thing, where they exist is not a boundary question, right? It could be a transportation question. It could be what facility they have, right? But the main focus for us is going to be the schools with boundaries. The charter schools come into that play because they're in a area where there's a boundary and they reside within that boundary. Charter school is a little different because, again, we would look at where do the students from the charter come from, right? And then that is where's their best location. I've been in a district, we had a charter school, that the only students that went to that charter school were right there. Nobody else, they were a neighborhood charter school, no one else went there. Had other ones where a charter school and the entire district, 200 square miles, somebody went to that charter, so it could be located anywhere, right? And so they're two very distinct processes. These are special program processes. Again, I'll say we're ahead of the game here, right? Again, what we're gonna do is we're processing it here. We may come up with a recommendation earlier than November, December, January, who knows, right? But it's important to get the information. If this stuff's going on, we want you to know about it. And not everybody spends the time and energy to be on a board meeting until 2:00.
I have
Right.
2 questions. Number one, you talked about, and it was on the slide, studies have been conducted. Who conducted the studies, and what items did they consider when they came up with this scheme here?
Yeah, I can't answer that, but we can get you the information on the studies that were done in the future.
Okay. Question number 2, you just mentioned there's boundaries. In our second meeting, there was a request about having a map with boundaries,
Mhm.
with easy tagging of which schools by name. Where is the status of that particular report? So when we talk about boundaries, we talk about schools, we have a visual for every one of us to look at. When things like when 4 other schools get recommended as a place to put students, we have an easy reference.
Well, again, thank you, because you're giving us the opportunity to provide to you what you want, that we're working on that right now with MGT, with the boundary analysis, the student plots, all of that stuff that will be coming to you in the near future, not right away, but in the near future, as we get that together. And then what we have today, we can provide that. But again, the most important part is then, what do we want, and how does the fit of the students in different geographic areas meet that, whatever that optimum school size program we come up with. So I understand exactly what you're asking for, and we're working on it.
Okay, because that's a linchpin to carry on further conversations, so we are knowledgeable and not talking around a subject. Thank you.
Okay, so back to these 2 things. Let's go to this side of the room.
Yes, Paul DeWorkin. First, want to just say that I'm definitely against Renaissance going to Duncan Hobart. But the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of questions still that has not been answered, or if they have, I haven't heard the answers to these questions. How long, these are some of the questions, how long did PVUSD know that the water was not safe at Renaissance? And why, if it's not safe, why continue to have those students out at Renaissance still, right? Why now? Like, it seems like something is being rushed. Did something happen with Renaissance outside of water? Like, why are we having to move students now? It seems like there's a bigger issue going on than just the water. Now, with the water, why hasn't there been any action to fix this issue, depending on how long you've known about the water? And these questions can be also the same idea of a question when it comes to regarding transportation, I believe, because you already know how long it takes for buses to transport students, 2 hours daily. Why hasn't that issue been talked about or fixed? You know, what's preventing positive actions to fixing issues? That's something that needs to be sustained. Also, in one of the slides, it said that there will be summer work if Renaissance does go to Duncan, there will be summer work to get, I'm assuming, Duncan Hobart up to code. Is that correct?
No, not up to code, so,
Not up to code.
no, not up to
Okay,
code.
so-
So the school is up to code, but the answer is it serves students of a smaller size.
Well, right now it
instead
does.
preparing it for students of a larger size.
Exactly. So by my understanding by what was just presented is that work will get done this summer. Is that correct?
Well, at this point, I think that's going to be very difficult, no matter what we do,
Okay.
right? Summer work, hopefully, with the work that we
Right.
do takes
So
much longer time.
I agree with you. I think that that's not a realistic thing to be presenting to us because there are other schools in the district that have so many other things going on and it's taken years to even get to it. Right? PV
That's-
High School,
that-
PV
I-
High
you
School,
know.
Watsonville High. I mean, we all know.
Yeah.
So my thing is, how are you going to move high school students to Duncan Holbert, do this work, and not have it ready for students? It doesn't seem like that's smart to do.
Can I ask you to let him take a stab at trying to answer some of these questions?
Sorry, I have more questions, but go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, well,
Go your
those are,
limit.
All right, my
again,
bad.
great questions.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
So-
get them all out.
Okay, so my last question, is regarding the CC building at HA Hyde. I also have a student that attends there. He's TK at the moment. And the CC building is where I worked out of as a behavior tech for over 19 years. Now that CC building is being used by the local community and being run by parents of the community, of the students, where they offer services for food, they wash your clothes, they have a pantry there. Now, you're gonna displace that community, where are they gonna go? So that's also another big issue, right? I'm not, that's my, yeah, sorry. So that's where I'm just trying to say that, there's a lot of questions still to be had. And I don't think this has been looked at proper, with enough time.
And I'm going to agree with you 100%. That was a lot. There's a lot there. Cannot answer all of those questions, but they're all great questions. Every question that you've had, every comment that you had is realistic. That needs to be addressed. And I believe that's why the comment is this is not coming back to the next board meeting. With that, I can tell you that yes, there's been thought, consideration of the water issues and how they've handled that. There's issues with transportation throughout the entire district that we'll talk about, hopefully within the next meeting. So a lot of questions, right? And a lot of good wonderings, right? And so hopefully we can bring back some answers to those wonderings going forward. So we're not going to go much longer, but let's go here.
Can I just
Let her go and then, yeah.
I have a couple of things. One is when the flood happened, are we considering other sites that we would not have to put money into remodeling a whole school?
That's part of the work that Sergio is going to be bringing forward to you, which you'll see at the very end of the presentation today if we get to it. But it is where, and we commented about this, where do we have to make the least amount of investment for the biggest bang, right? And there's a lot of schools where we would make a huge investment and not get a very big bang. So, benefit, bang for your buck, okay? So that'll be coming.
I was just going to say, in the interest of time, Dr. Contreras at the beginning of this had suggested a 3 fingers, 4 fingers, whatever. And I think I'm reading the room and saying that the students at these schools deserve the same consideration as every other student in every other school. And so let's come back to these topics throughout this process at the appropriate time. So Duncan would fit into the special education part of the agenda later on in the summer, and maybe move on from here and just see if we have general agreement on that.
Sure.
5 is you would like
You're
to-
supporting, No, there you go, 5. That's the one, that's
5
5.
is to support what Matt's just said, thank you.
All right, that's great. All right, we're moving on to fiscal issues. What fun.
Renaissance's School of Attendance for 86 students. That is the total student body at the school at present. And 24 of those are 11th graders. Do we assume that the 12th graders are graduating? And so we're talking about, just to understand scope, we're talking about 24 students potentially being moved. Is that correct? Okay, and 10th graders are not at the, they can't be. There just happen to be none at present?
We can put the exact data.
Yeah, the answer at the board meeting was 55 students, and that was assuming that no new students would be recommended for it.
Okay. My name is Gerardo Castillo, and the time allocated for me was 20 minutes for the whole team, so I will try to see I can catch up with 5 minutes. Okay, that's my goal. So the other information, but I will make sure I cover everything. So we're going to present to you is the turnaround, and what that means is the actual expenditures to the districts through April 30, and projections for the next 2 years. So that's the most recent information in the board. But I also, besides the turnaround, I include some allocations, what we call the extra funds. Those are federal funds and title ones, so you can understand the picture, what it is. We will go very detailed on some information. We are required to track like how much we spend per student per school, so that you will see that information as well. So why is that information here? Because we're talking, one of the main reasons is how we allocate our resources better to our schools, right? So this is our vision, and vision, we talked about it in the previous presentation, so keep in mind always our students. So that's what we talked. So we did a turnaround. We are not required to present a turnaround because we were positive a second turnaround, but the county office of education, who has fiscal oversight, required us to do it. And so they had to approve all our financials, and that's why we present that information. One thing that is, so what it is included in this, our school districts prepare their budget for the following year, what we call it on the May revise, and that's included in this presentation. So think about it, our fiscal position of the district. You don't hear, we cannot go bankruptcy, right? So think about it. If we are gone, we still have to continue providing services to our community, to our students. Actually, cities can go bankruptcy, they go like that, but the state will not allow us to go bankruptcy. That's why we had to work current year and 2 years down the road. So there's like a warning sign. We were qualifying first syndrome, and then we changed it. The board has to make some very difficult decisions, so we were positive, and so that's where we were. So where we are, this is April 30. So in the bottom line, we started with $106.8 million, of which the majority of 44 were restricted, and we have a deficit spending of $18.3 million. So that's a lot of numbers in here, but you look at the total, that just means that we are spending for this year $18.3 million more than we are bringing in. So that's where we are. So, and this is just shows the $88 million where it is allocated, the allocation of the fund balances. We are in a deficit spending, so those portions in there is covering the deficit spending in the coming 2 fiscal years. by June 17, we will present the board the budget for 26, 27 and the following 2 years. So this is just the changes that secondly on the unrestricted portion, we have a deficit spending of about $5.76 million. But April to date, the deficit spending has been about 4.7. So we improve about $1 million. And the biggest portion of that is because we had attendance recovery. So after school programs, our ADA increased, and that give us like an additional $1 million overall. So as I say at the beginning, we are required to do a budget not just for this fiscal year, for the following 2 years. So what is very interesting is like the reductions that the board actually bring us to, if we go right here, it bring us to surplus for the following year, if we were at this point on time. However, we are in declining enrollment, so even if the state increases the COLA, then by the following year, just our ongoing increases in costs bring us to another deficit spending of $10.3 million. We are required, our district, for our district our size, we are required to maintain a fund balance, a minimum of 3%. I say that's the minimum that covers about 2 weeks of our payroll. We do that, the minimum. So we have a fund balance of about 6%. So, you know, the main revise, it was released just, when was released? May 15th. So it's very recent when we present the information. One thing is that the cost of living costs have increased at 2.8%, so that's including here. So the enrollment has been projected better than what we did before. And also we have settled with our bargaining department, CSEA. We are, I think, very happy because, you know, when we reach an agreement, we are happy. The board has not approved that yet, so we're gonna bring that to the board in the next board meeting. So I added right here in what is the definition between one-time funds and ongoing funds. You know, when I hear the word, you hear the like super COLA, I don't know, like what is super about 4.3% when the cost increase, that barely covers that. But that's anything that is above the statutory, they call it super COLA. But that is tied to 14-week pregnancy mandate. We have to pay that in addition to what employees already receive right now. You know, we did calculations, so the increase between the 2.87 and 4.37 is tied to this. However, there's some great news in here, and for the longest time, you know, special education, that's the biggest thing right here, is that has received per ADA 1,340. That's ongoing funding. That is great news. And also we have discretionary block grant of one time for 175. So those items we will work on the budget and we will incorporate it for the for 26, 27. So you know, this is, I just want to let you read that, the definition between so I think is the ongoing funded is that you think about it, your personal lives, that can bread and butter, you will work for not for the school district, but for a corporation, and they give you a bonus check in December, that will be a one-time funding source. So the governor, there's a significant money, but a lot is one-time funds. That's what is included in the main revise. So when you put it all together, yeah, it is a significant amount of money, but a lot is one-time funds. So again, we are not required to submit a turn-on. We will still be a positive certification, but we have a deficit spending in 27, 28 and beyond. So the next one, this is very detailed information, what we call in the every student success. This is just an example. It's included in your package. So we are required, this is the latest from 24, 25, we are actually required to calculate the cost per student for each school. And that's what is included in this package. You will notice there is three funding sources. That is the state, local, and federal. No all the schools receive the same funding sources. Some schools do not receive Title I funds. So this is considered part of the CONAP, like which schools receive these Title I funds. So it's included, this report is included as a supplemental for the purpose of this. We broke down the schools per elementary school, the cost per students. You know what is, some schools have older, so not older, that's the right word, that's the wrong word. So more experienced teachers who are high in the salary schedule versus younger teachers, so that could be. But this is the cost per students in 24, 25 for elementary schools. And we did that for our middle schools. You will notice that middle schools like after high school, like what is that? That's a school that does not receive Title I funds. So that's the. And then we have our high schools. So this is the cost per Actos High School also does not receive or very little Title I funds. And then we have the alternative schools. We have two alternative schools. And again, that's from 24, 25. So and this is our, in my presentation, it looks aligned. I don't know why it's not aligned here. So so how we allocating the money for next year is that we allocated about for the eligible schools based on the CONAP. We allocated 150 per student, plus with a requirement that we have for parent involvement, a minimum of 1%, and we allocate about $6 for that. And what is our low income? So that is 80 as district-wide. Some schools are higher than others. We are about 80% free and reduced district-wide. So that's where we are right now. So this is just, I talked about this, we had to present the budget for the board, and we're closing the books.
The comments under, is appropriate for a comment at this point for a question?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Comment about how Oro Valley allocates utilities.
So we're changing that. So our utilities right now, for instance, is so we pay the central. I have been working for districts. This is the first where we pay for the utilities from the central part for all the schools. So we don't keep track of how much we pay for utilities at each school. We are changing that for 26, 27. We have to create accounts. We're gonna keep track of every the utilities, the cost. So the cost in here, we allocated what we pay central and then divided per student. The state allowed us to do that, but is it 100% correct? No, because that's one question that we ask, how much we spend on utilities. We have a lot of improvements, areas to improve in that area.
My question is that there's a trend line eating up the deficit, or deficit causing the eating up of your reserve. So if you continue, what is your projection, given the statistics you gave us on enrollment, when the reserve is no longer there, if no action is taken? 5 years? 7 years?
So it is if we don't do nothing about it.
We should also know what failure is all about.
Right. So it is it's 4 years down the road. So we are good for the current year and 2 years. After that, we cannot sustain that.
So
it's between 4 and 5 years.
4 to 5 years, the doors are, or the coffers are empty.
Yeah,
Unless a decision is
our
made.
research will be used, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So yeah, we do our projections 5 years. You know, we had to require a percent to do 3 years. We do 5 years to like that. So, you know, the reality is the farther I am in the fiscal year, the more wrong I am. Because there's a lot of assumptions, but those are the assumptions that we know at this point in time. In the county, grade us, all the districts within the county, based on those assumptions, and that's the ones that we need to incorporate. So I don't create my own assumptions. They tell us you have to do this. The state, the federal fund, the revenues, what we have, our control is the enrollment, the ADA, and the internal costs, salaries and benefits, and utilities is a big portion.
And he said, so the
Mhm.
important thing is they're gonna be presenting them. So the second interim and third interim looks at the next 2 years, but what's gonna happen is with the budget, they're gonna add the third year, and that third year will show that the reserve is declining substantially, right? And so you get a better look at that time, so they, when we actually present the budget, we'll be able to present that. But you are 100% correct. If you do nothing,
Yeah.
you'll run out of money. Right? With state funding and other things, that will in fact happen. The answer is, it's never gonna be that you're not gonna do anything because there's intervention
Yeah.
involved before that by the county office.
So I think it's like, that's a great example that you brought, like the increase that we provide for our employee groups for this year, it comes from the fund balance. You know, that's what it comes down. Any other questions? I think I'm gonna just take these questions and then we move instead of that, yeah.
Can you just
Mhm.
maybe go, excuse me, go a layer deeper in explaining the school or the total expenditures per pupil? Because you talked briefly about Title I versus not. And obviously the Title I schools get that additional funding. But when you say total expenditure per pupil, you're saying that Alianza costs $25,000 per pupil to operate.
Okay, I can bring that example. So what it is just the cost for the school divided by the enrollment, and that's what is calculated. But I give some examples where there's some central costs, like the utilities, that we pay the central from one account, and so we allocate it based on enrollment to the school. Mhm. So that's good.
The chart where it shows them all.
Yes.
Yeah,
was
but
one before?
when you're talking
Yeah.
about the example,
Yeah.
right, just sticking with Alianza,
This
since it
one
was
right
at the
here.
top.
Yeah.
So when
you
you're
will see-
talking,
Okay.
when you're talking about that 25,000, I understand the central expenditures, but the school expenditures per pupil, how does the Title I figure into that? Are there additional services that they have that is why that that expense is then higher?
Yes, so that's how much, I'm gonna move out of here a little bit. So the way it's calculated, so it's the number of students, they have 24, 25, and then we have the schools expense, that's the school expense, so federal and state and local, so the school spend 16,301, the school by itself, right? And then we have central expenditures, you know, federal, state, and local, that they were provided district-wide, and we just divided by the number of students. That's how we allocate that. And so the service that we do that, yes, federal guidelines require us to provide additional service, and the main thing is to improve the students' performance.
I think we'll dig down deeper for later, right? But there was a question how much it costs per school. We'll dig down later because we can break out really in all that really matters is the state and local, right? So that is the key. And Gerardo said that.
You want to get closer to your
Oh,
okay, sorry.
So this number, this is federal, this is state, right? These are the key numbers, really the key numbers. And notice that they are dramatically different, right? And the one thing that this report says is the expenditures who are actually there, right? The number of teachers and what they're paid. And we know that there's beginning teacher salaries, and I'm gonna make this up, that make 65,000 and ending teacher salaries that make 125,000, right? And that's included in there. So if I have a senior staff, those numbers could be there. If, so what would happen is we're gonna actually do a calculation on what the average is, right? And that's a published number, what the average teacher salary is, to show based on the number of teachers and the staff, but that's a much more in-depth calculation that we'll get to in the future. So hopefully that answers the question.
So I'm gonna take 2 more questions so we can move on because I did not do the able panel, so yeah.
Can you go back to the slide that showed the unrestricted and the restricted? Because I have 2 questions. The first is, can you help us understand why we're running such massive deficits on the restricted side of the house? We're commonly told that's funds that are earmarked for special projects or brought in by grants. So I always struggle when I look at our budgets to see like the restricted side. How do we have a negative $57 million in restricted funds when those are commonly earmarked? Or that's my first question.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I have not done this for a while. I probably ask myself the same question. So restricted funds, we have it only for long periods of time, sometimes. So we receive it once, and we spend it over periods of time. So like, for instance, I was talking about like the discretionary block grant that's coming for this coming year. We have until 2030 to spend it, right? So once you receive it, it's kind of like you have your savings account, and you think once you have received your bonus check, so you decide you spend it all in, that's all you have. So it's part of the fund balance, you spend it all in 1 year, or you spend it in several years. So this is our issue is actually the unrestricted portion, right? Because when the programs go away, the ESSER funds were one example, from the COVID-19. That's why the restricted is so big.
Okay. And then my second question was, when our students bring in concentration funds for meeting the criteria of being unduplicated pupil counts, in the past, we have always, the way we've tracked that the students bringing in those funds are benefiting from them is having additional reading intervention teachers staffed at those sites. We are now base staffing all reading intervention teachers at all elementaries. So what metrics are we using to guarantee that the students bringing in those concentration funds are benefiting from them?
Great question, but well beyond this committee. You said you weren't gonna ask any questions.
I tried.
Yeah.
He knows more about it than anyone.
Well, I could talk about it forever, so, okay.
I have a question.
Okay, let me go, I think 2 more,
We're gonna go over here.
right here, and then that's it, okay, and then,
So the cuts that were made to the teachers and the positions, was that already part of your budget? And it still shows your deficit in like 2 years of $10 million?
that's correct.
So it's safe to say next year looks fine, but if you're looking at that, you're possibly going to be looking at more cuts? Because you have to find a way to balance it out.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes. We now have to incorporate what we know about the May revise, and so that could change a little bit on that perspective.
So I'm trying to just wrap my head around this. I deal with budgets all the time too. But you're gonna basically lay off the teachers, then who's gonna be teaching the students in those years?
So we have part of our bargaining agreement, let me correlate that, we have required class mandated, so we're still 100%, we have to keep our bargaining contract, so we have that. So we,
addressed that question in the
yeah.
capacity study, has that information in there.
So our teachers, we still have to maintain that, so we have to figure out a way to do that, because we have.
The number of teachers are based upon the number of students.
Right.
If you're going down by 20%, you're gonna go down by 20%, or you're gonna fund them
Okay,
as
let's go.
a different process, different funding source. And the district doesn't have a lot of.
So, real quick question.
Last question, and we have to.
Yes, yeah, I understand.
Okay.
So on the central expenditures, do you have a list of what you consider your cost pool central expenditures? And then secondarily, I just wanted to make sure that capital expenditures that you are putting in for each one of these schools are being not necessarily central expenditures.
Yeah, no,
and
this
they're
is-
specifically for those, as part of those calculations.
Yeah, so thank you for asking the question. So yes and yes. So we have a list of central expenditures, I mean, and then we allocate it. We had that in the second year capital. This is only for the general fund, so it does not, or the charter fund. So everything related to the bond facilities, that is not included in this because are considered capital expenditures. That's not included in this calculation. So this is only what we call it operating.
Just operating costs, okay.
Operating, it's like the
Yeah,
cost
yeah,
of
understand,
running a business, no investing in the building.
Right, it would be good to also see the central expenditures, what you consider those as part of the definitions for us, because that's important to note.
Okay, okay.
So lots of conversation, lots of questions regarding to this, like, the key takeaway. The key takeaway, the district has, the key takeaway is the district has a structural deficit, right? And so the district, based upon the number of students that we receive, and all that matters, local property taxes doesn't matter, federal funds don't matter. How we fund the school district is based upon the number of students that we have and the dollar amount that we get from the state. And that's here, and our expenditures are here. That's it. We have a structural deficit, and we have to correct that structural deficit. As enrollment declines, the instructional deficit gets bigger. And so that's the sort of the key takeaway from that. Go ahead.
I'm looking back on our purpose statement, and I see okay. We're the Sustainable Schools Advisory Committee is established to advise the Board of Trustees on long-range student enrollment and school configuration planning to ensure equitable, high-quality educational opportunities for all students and to support the sustainable use of district facilities and resources. So I'm hearing about the people in our district and the employment, but I'm also looking at this going, okay, are we focusing on the facilities and resources in this committee? And what is the school configuration planning, what does that include? And when you're saying our expenditure is here, our expenditure is here.
Revenues are down here.
Revenues are here. If we are talking about, and we are talking about closing schools, will that
Reducing expenditures
Right.
in many ways will help solve that problem. This committee is one of those avenues.
will that give students more teachers and support in fewer classrooms?
Well, that's where we'll look at the optimum school program. Those are 100 great questions.
Okay.
Those are 100 great questions that we'll get to. But what we'd like to do now is sort of that key takeaway, right? That key takeaway is we have a structural deficit. We have a key, I'm pretty loud, they can hear me now. Okay, so we have the key structural deficit, expenditure here is revenues here. That's the key takeaway, right? And the cost per student at every school is different, right? And so we have to consider that as well. So we just want you to talk to your shoulder partner the other way this time, the other way. Talk to somebody else about, okay, are we clear about what's happening financially in the district, which is one of the reasons why we're here. With a partner. Go ahead. Everybody gets a chance. Everybody gets a chance.
I'm gonna do 3 minutes because I have to catch up.
That was your 3 minutes, and you're still talking. You're still talking. All right, everybody, come on back. Come on back. All right, lots of good conversation. Lots of good conversation. Is there a burning comment from this side of the room? Not everybody. Not everybody. Burning comment over here, this side of the room.
It sounds like what you're saying is that eventually we're figuring out how many schools to close, but then at some point, we'd have to do this again in about 3 to 5 years.
I can't speak to that. That's a comment. It depends on what you do and how you do it, right? It's a difficult version of the world when we get to November and December about what decisions will be made, and then we'll have to figure that out. Can't answer that question, I promise. How about this side of the table? Middle table right here. Anybody? Questions for me to discuss on this side? All right.
Oh, I was just going to ask, we kind of talked about it a little bit here. If we're already looking at a $10 million deficit in the next 2 to 3 years, why was the deputy superintendent hired at that amount? I get it, it's a contract position and you don't have to hold that position after 3 years, but it seems like those funds could have been easily allocated towards, improving things at schools, giving the teachers their stipends that they needed for their supplies. Because if the goal of the school district, I'm hearing, is to improve test scores, improve the student experience and all of that, but if you're gonna take that money that should go towards them and put it towards higher up administrative costs, then what are we doing here?
I'm going to go, that's a comment. I can't answer that question.
Exactly. I mean, it is a
can't.
comment.
It's a comment.
But it should be something that's addressed, and I'm hearing that it's not just me. I don't have a kid in the school district, but if I did, I would be pretty livid about it, and a teacher as well. I'm sorry, that's my comment. I'm sorry.
Can I interject for just a second? So it's a little bit of an elephant in the room, okay? People are gonna wanna know, but it may not be part of what this committee is supposed to do. But at some point, I think it would be helpful and healthy to get an answer to that. And it may be like 100% needed this administrator, whatever it is, but, to have respect and to everybody feel like this is worthwhile and we're doing something productive. I think that was a fair point to raise, and I was kind of wondering the same thing. And I expected, there's a good reason, and if you don't have the number of administrators you need, then there are problems there. But even like a 5-minute, at some point, explanation.
I can't.
So this, I know you can't, but if at some point that would be, I'm just saying that would be helpful because it is an elephant in the room.
And we're capturing.
Hearing the teachers talking about, 34 students and 4 with autism and aides are losing and all that. So just a little blurbs at some point would be, I think, healthy.
Two in the corner.
Well, I think part of it, yes, we all understand the structural deficit. It's how you reduce it, right? And so when we're having these conversations about school capacities, we also need to know about school capacity for teachers based on the enrollment size and the mandated minimum requirements as well as what optimum requirements are, right? I think that's an important conversation piece that's missing from this, and that it's another elephant in the room. I think to piggyback on previous comments and I think frustration that people have is that we're seeing the request of reduction in force on the direct workforce while increasing administration support for the rest, right? And I think there's just a fundamental ethical question around that at this point in time. And I think that they have to go in alignment in one direction together, right? So if direct staff are being requested to be reduced, because of this, administration should have some economies of scale that are equivalent to it, right? So less schools, less administrators, right? As well as less teachers. So that's what we're having to have a conversation about. And I think that that's an important part of the analysis that needs to be included and we need to be transparent about. And knowing that we also have other things that are like less hurtful, which is retirements and attrition and not filling positions and those planning structures that are going to be helpful towards that, as well as other things that are like innocuous and yet we have funding for and are required to spend on, which is like building facilities and utilities, if you're talking about like, that's your number one expense, what facility work is going to be done to reduce some of those utility expenses, like LED transitions and solar and other things that are already going to be helping? And then are we already seeing those savings in some of these projections?
No, so good comments. Some of those things we are doing that. So we make a note of your comments, and we will address it in the future. So I think it's more than this group. But some of the things of the facilities, absolutely, that's the goal, right? Like, yeah, I was back in here, like all the ESSER funds that we got. That's exactly what I had done. Invested in one-time teams, so they could generate savings for the future, ongoing savings. A lot of the things, and I'm not. So that's kind of like what our goal about the one-time funds to do that. And so our facilities, so our bonds, yes, we're doing that. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. We are many of the buildings are underground that we talked about before. Our infrastructure of the buildings are so low that we have to maintain those in order to before we get to that. So, but that is our goal. Okay, regarding the utilities. So, you want me to take one more question? Because I want to go to that.
I have a comment. Oh, can I say something really quick? Because this is very interesting work here that we're doing. But I would highly encourage you, Gerardo, to watch the Sustainable Budget Committee work that we do.
I can watch it.
Yeah, and there's some good stuff there, like operations as highly functional schools that we looked at. They all have a week off in their highest month HVAC months. Did you know that? And you know why that is? It's because they save hundreds of thousands of dollars by closing the school for that week. So a week in October for us, a week in March, and another week in April and February, our coldest months. That would save us over $1 million. Just something to think about.
Okay. I'm gonna move on to the next. You were talking. Yeah, just go ahead. Uh-huh.
Hey, I want to, like, one of our meeting norms was to be student focused, and I wanted to say that I appreciate and I am grateful that the Duncan Holbert and Renaissance issue tried to be pushed forward so fast, because I think it was a wake up to what we're actually going to have to do, because this is what we're going to have to do. And I want to say that our students, no matter where they are going to be cared for. And our students are who we really need to look at. And I was talking earlier about, I currently, as a teacher, I have 32 students. I have 4 students with autism, 5 504s, and I have 8 IEPs in my class, and I have no aid. And that's not helpful for the students. They need more support than I'm able to give them physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so if I have to go to a different location, but I can get more capable bodies in the room to support them, I am all for it. PVUSD teachers are resilient. We can teach on a boat. We can teach with a goat. We can teach on a train. We can teach in the rain. We can teach here or there. We can teach anywhere. And I want to say that I would like to start to separate the location from the people. And I'm okay with the locations having to be let go in order to serve our students the best possible way. And it feels hard. It feels so hard because we're seeing this with Duncan Holbert and Renaissance, but we need to be student focused.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's go to the next topic. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, all right. So we have the whole report that you have there to digest it at deep concentration levels and figuring it out. And the answer is, it's a point in time. It's current as of today. It will be out of date as soon as the first day of summer starts, because portals will be moved, teachers' new enrollments will be done, and it's a thing that we have to update at all times, right? So it's a continuation of an update. And so basically, this is what we're doing, right? When we think about this, and again, it's trying to come up with this consistent loading standards, right? And what we used in the report are the current loading standards within the district. Now, once you have it, it's really easy to change that loading standard and come up with something different, because our loading standards are different by every grade level, right? And it's looking with the information that we got from MTG for the schools with boundaries about how many students are going to be there. This report looks at it in 5 years. MTG looked at it in 7. So we're looking at a little shorter period to come up with that. And then sort of the site-by-site capacity. And when you look at it, what you will see is that Pajaro Valley schools all have different things. Every one of them has a different thing here and a different thing there. And somewhere along the way, you come up with standardization that says, you are going to say, here's what that school will look like, right? And this is what the district will support in creating that program for the students that attend, right? So that's what the sort of the point of that is. And then we sort of bring it all together, and then we go to the district and say, okay, now let's start working through this. They'll work through that, and we'll bring back studies and recommendations to show you. But again, this just gives you the detailed analysis, right? Current inventory right now compares the actual enrollment, long-term, supports facility planning, program alignments, that idea of where is their space. I'm going to tell you that every space, I love your comment, every space is available for kids, right? It may be over here, it may be over here, but it's available for kids to get them what they need, the students. And then again, we've got to do annual updates. The numbers here, again, are the striking numbers. It's not like we're making these things up. That's what the capacity is, right? Now, we have a lot of portables, and we're doing a lot of work to figure out which portables we need. But right now, I can tell you, is now not the time to get rid of a whole bunch of portables. Why? Because we might need them, right? Now, if there's some bad ones, we're going to get rid of them. If there's some lease ones, we're going to get rid of them. But again, it's not a wholesale, we're going to throw out 500 portables. It's just not going to happen when we look at this. But you can see the district utilization is at 53%. Continuing down a little bit more, projected decline, 41%, 45%, 38%. So again, while Watsonville High School in the historical number showed it was growing, in the projected number, we all go down. And the answer is, why do we go down, is because kindergarten, over 13 years, moves through the program. If we have a smaller kindergarten, it's just the numbers are going to get lower and lower, and we are not attracting students from other places, right? And then it's across everywhere. It's not any one thing, right? Now, the good news is that everybody in California would have been facing huge declining enrollment if it wasn't for TK, right? But TK has brought an increased number of students that have covered up the loss. So if we didn't have those TK students enrolling, as it was a rolling 2-month increase, our decrease would have been even worse, right, overall for the district. But it is at all grade levels, right? And just here's some of the ones where, you know, we're getting up to 50% vacancy rates, you know, in classrooms, right? And every school principal and every school leader love their children, love their teachers, love the community, and will fill up every room in their school. And they will use every possible square foot. And they do. And what we have to do is say, okay, what's the standard? And your standard may be different if you get Title I. Your standard may be different if you get a community school grant, right? But all of that, we have to come up with a consistent, fair process for that to work for all students. You can see that we're having, you know, at the middle schools, even larger numbers. Renaissance, if you looked at the numbers here for Renaissance are 600 students, because we're loading it at 35, which is what we load high schools at, even though it's a continuation, because it could be used for something else rather than a continuation, right? Disregarding the water, all the other stuff, right? So we have to have a consistent way to do that. And then the comprehensive high school is 60% below. And if you look at Watsonville High School is an example of they've never lost the classroom, right? They just add and add and add and add, and they've filled it up, and they could fit 4,000 students in there. Is 4,000 students a good idea? Probably not, right? And so that's why we have 3 high schools within the district. Okay, and here's the numbers of the portables that we see, and we are gonna do the capacity study, taking out all the portables. What is it, right? But when we do that, it's a little more complicated because before we knew how many kindergarten, how many first grade, how many second grade, and they're all staffed at a different level, right? TK at 20-1, 24-1, 30, 35. So we have to do averages for how the state would look at us. And the state has loading formulas. So you think it's confusing now, when I bring it back, you're gonna go, what is these numbers? Well, they're what the state says we should be if we're gonna get housing. So you see the number of portables, and then this, absolutely, all of you have said this, and we know it as well, is portables cost more, right? And so what we do is we put a bunch of money into a portable. Orlando and Sergio have shown that, by us investing in portables and not investing in a facility, we now have huge facility costs in our permanent rooms because we put money into other rooms. But that's not an issue here. That's an issue everywhere. It's an issue everywhere within the state of California. So, for you to consider is the long-term operational stability, right? And again, that's what we're here for, the long-term. What kind of school should it be? School configuration and support spaces, right? So again, we're gonna say that you probably should have a larger enrollment in your schools than you do. When you have a larger enrollment at your schools, you have cohorts, right, for, like, I'm gonna make this up, 3 TKs, 4 Ks, first, second, third, then it becomes 3, right? And you have cohorts of teachers that work together. That bigger number allows for more space, more people to do the work. The smaller the school, the less support it has across that. And that's a balance. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna come up with that balance of what it should be. Again, the academic programs that are here, we're not gonna consider the academic programs. We're gonna have a space for an academic program, right? Support services, and then equity and student access. Again, where is special ed? Is special ed tucked off over at a school over here at the farthest edge, and school over here at the farthest edge, and a school over here at the farthest edge? Or is it continuum within a large enough school to house those students? Yes.
Just for my understanding of what you're saying is that, and I'm just gonna use this as an example. If we bring students to, say, H.A. Hyde, I think H.A. Hyde is considered one of the bigger school sites for elementary. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But if we're bringing more students, you're saying we'll have more teachers come in. Is that correct?
Well, students turn into teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But with the capacity of where it's at right now and the building spaces and everything, do you project or do you see having to build more onto that property?
So the answer is more than likely, whatever schools that you define as the final schools, and that Preston Thomas is going to come talk to you about what they're doing is they're investing in central schools in an area that have all of the services and continuum of buildings that a school needs. My advice to the team would be, let's spend our money on real buildings, right, rather than portables.
So
But those
then-
are all decisions that I can't comment on that one school at all.
No.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I'm just trying to comprehend it more because it seems like no matter what we decide on and whatever school it lands on or schools that land on, we're going to be spending more money that we don't have. Is that
No.
safe to say or no?
Well, so all of those improvements would be made with one-time funds or bond funds. They're not going to make our structural deficit less. So, an example would be that at the school, we have a school, and it may be that we're going to do solar at the school. Well, we can pay through solar by the savings that we have, and that's a general fund expense because it has general fund savings, right? So again, equity and access. So again, the
Oh,
implication.
you're ignoring me, sorry. So, I just want you to know that,
Don't scare me like
what
that.
you're suggesting is great. I love that as the CSEA president, right? However, you're cutting all of our support staff, so how does that work?
I don't know that I'm cutting any support staff.
The district is cutting our support staff. How does that work?
Yeah, I can't answer your question. It's definitely a comment that the district is cutting our support staff, but again, I can't answer that here, right, as we go
So
forward.
we as a committee need to understand that the district is cutting our support staff. We would love to utilize the empty classrooms to support students and their well-being and their success in academic support. However, we've been limited because we have a limited resource of employees in the classified workforce, also in teachers. And we've also been limited to utilizing the empty classrooms to save money on HVAC. So understand that is a fact.
And then.
I was just gonna say that it's more nuanced, that like portables cost more or less depending on the capital need of the buildings itself. So for me, it would be helpful to understand the age, useful life of remaining portables
Correct.
to make that assessment, as well as the capital expenses of the portables and the sites that they live on, because that was a business decision. This is a hodgepodge of 5 different superintendents looking at this problem differently. And now we're faced with having to reconcile those 5 decisions into the best decision from 5 to 10 years from now. So it's really important for us to understand that capital expense project costs to really understand the actual capacity, because some of these numbers, they don't mean anything when 55% of it is all portables that are all out of useful life. Like that's not helpful.
Right. 2 things, and the good news is Sergio is working on that as well, because one of the things, in the crazy weather that we have these days is everybody would like air conditioning, and for the most part, round numbers, generally, the air conditioning in this district is in a portable and not in a regular classroom, right? So it's for us to remove these portables, then we have to put air conditioning into a school. Air conditioning into a school costs infrastructure to upgrade the power to be able to do that. Well, let's come back here. So, future things, significant capacity, operations, inefficiencies, right? A capacity without enrollment removal, program relocation that we just talked about. There's going to be program relocation. And you are very true, and you stole my thunder, right? If we can't do Renaissance, we can't do anything. I'm just telling you right now. Renaissance, to the point you were making, has 50 kids. What are you going to do when we come to a point and it's going to be difficult, and we have to be prepared. That's why we go through all this, so that you feel prepared, because it's going to be difficult. These are not easy, right? I say that over and over and over again. It's not easy. Now, with Renaissance, might not have been the right time, not been the right suggestion, might not have been anything, but it is an example of when we want to make a change. It is super hard for a school district. Super hard. It's super hard for the community. And we have to all work together to get there.
I actually had a different comment, but I take a little bit of issue with what you just said. And so I'm going to just say, it's not that we can't do Renaissance, it's that we've set up a process, and maybe it's not Renaissance, maybe it is, but that's what this process is for. And so I think it's Renaissance may make sense to keep for a different purpose, right? And that's, so I think there's been a lot of comments tonight that feel like we're being steered in a direction rather than us steering the direction of that. Yeah. But the question I had is, I want to, a takeaway that I'm hearing here is there's 144 or so portables that are being planned for removal, closure over the summer.
No. Not for removal.
what's the timeline for those 144? So there's 144 to be identified over the next month or so. So the capacity numbers are not something we should put any weight on or spend any time on right now, given we have all these other things to cover, and those numbers are going to change pretty drastically once we know those numbers. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're done with that, and we are gonna just jump real quickly. It must be Augie, gonna jump real quickly. So, do you have that spreadsheet? Okay. I'm sorry, what? It is at the last slide of this report. All right, we are gonna spend just like 5 minutes on this as a introduction, just an introduction. Augie, introduce yourself, young man, and make sure that you take 5 minutes, because he can take.
I'm a yapper, certified yapper. Right on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of this council, meeting, group, gang. I'm sorry. I'm kidding, advisory. My name is Agustin Acosta. I have been here, working here for 6 years. I also am a father of 3 students that attend these schools. But let's go ahead and get into this. We are looking at our 2025 to 2026 school capacity analysis. Oh, you're correct. It's right there. There you go. We got to download. Oh, beautiful. Already. Perfect. Here we are. Here's our study. Just want to go through, just as we identify these items that are on here. Here's our school district facilities and enrollment metrics. Starting off with our school name, we have our schools. On the left-hand side, we have the approximate year of, construction start and occupancy. Some schools up to the 20s, 1920s, 1928s. Site size, acreage to the site. Again, the district capacity, as well as current enrollment. We do not have the fit rating at this moment because that is a process that is currently happening now. We are going through that fit program, as well as our facilities condition status. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with our FMP, but we took many years to develop a facilities master plan. Perfect, okay. And this is where this came from, which gave us our facilities condition score. As you guys can see there, if you read right to the next of it, here is our priority 1 costs per school. Identified as priority 1 costs are strictly related to health and safety matters, situations that impact the kids' health and safety and well-being and operations of the school, with priority 2 being anything outside of there or anything that includes or programs that impact the students' quality of life as well as the condition inside the facility there. As you can see, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of red. It's a lot of challenges. Here tonight, we are to present the data and the information we have acquired throughout many years. Again, this is a very challenging situation we find ourselves in and the waters that we stand in today. And the rest of that of course is available funding. Yes. Yes, that's correct. So right here we have on these two.
So here we look at it, right? So in OPSC, there's a percentage that we have for state funding. So if you look in total project, that's how much we have to spend in order for us to get the 60% from OPSC, and we would have to put in 40%. And at the end of the day is this money, we don't get it until 5 or 6 years from now.
Yeah, and this usually helps delineate what schools or what projects have the highest priority and the delineation between what schools have the most fiscal impact and the projects that we select.
If we look at the top school, zoom in a little bit. So basically, it's saying, you know, when it was built, how big it is, all these things, and then the total cost, 53 million. And we're eligible from the state of California, so it's gonna take 53 million to bring it up to the not to make it great, to bring it to DCC. Because it's 53 million, the state of California will say, you need to build a new school. They're still only gonna give you $860,000. That's all the money that it's gonna get. That's the way the state formula works, so yes, you're gonna have to be crazy. But if the cost of the building is more than, to repair it, is more than 50% of the due, you can't repair it, you have to build new, and you have to have your own money, 53 million, because the state's only gonna give us that, their share of the grant, 800,000, we have to put in our 500,000. And then you see, we also put in here our main building and our portables, and this is really start building upon the things that we talked about, so it's all in one place. But that's why we're giving to a little bit at a time, because we've already gone over the facility index and what it means and why that number is what it is. We've gone over the master plan. I'm sure you're gonna just trust us on this state grant money, but we like the changes every year, right? And then we'll be working on this part about what's there and what should stay there into the future based on what the optimal conditions and program are. So again, this really was just to get you, thank you, Augie, good job. Just to get you some, is a work in progress, right? The fit report is gonna go in there, and that's actually better than the work orders because it's the current condition of the schools. Quick question?
Yeah, so just quick question. So that state grant, that's the maximum per year that you're able to
No,
apply?
it's
Or
one time.
maximum, that's one time, so.
25 years,
So you can't reapply?
right? It's a 25
And that's the
50 year.
maximum allowed
Yes,
by, per site? And then the requirement match?
correct.
And how does that get determined from the state? By the needs or the
No, it's all
cost of
about,
repair?
it's all about enrollment and,
Oh, okay.
and the building that is being repaired, the
Construction.
age of the building and when it's repaired.
Okay.
Okay, so real quickly, we're gonna get back to, not that, we're gonna get back to the first PowerPoint. First PowerPoint, that looks like this one right here. Okay, remember, we have a parking lot. Write down those questions that you have for the parking lot. You wanna start writing those down? We're gonna get you out of here in time. Okay, again, what we're gonna try and start now is the optimal program. Gonna bring some experts in to talk to you about the range of things that go into that. Number one is gonna be the educational classroom cohort size, because that turns into the size of the school, that turns into all the other stuff. That will take a long time. We have MGT working on, what we talked about is the projected grade level by resident area of the boundary. It's not the enrollment, because that includes inter-districts in and out. It's the number of students in that boundary, right? The resident in the boundary, with the assumption that a different school, people may stay within that. So then we would know, okay, this is how many TKs we need, this is how many Ks we need, this is how many 1s, 2s, and 3s that would come from that. So that helps us with that idea of the optimal. And then we're gonna talk about transportation, and we're gonna get it done on time. Again, the parking lot, all of the parking lot stuff is gonna go onto the website. We're gonna answer the things that we can answer. You guys have tremendous questions, great insights. And the answer is we can't answer them all at once, right? And the ones that we can answer, we will answer, right, as soon as possible. But I think you can see that many of the questions you have will be coming up in the next couple meetings, right, as we build upon this.
I have a question about these, where the schools are all. is there any way that we could get some type of assessment in terms of pesticides and what the soil is like? Because it doesn't make sense to invest all this money to fix up a school if the area surrounding it or even where the school is at is basically a health hazard. Like I know Pajaro Valley Middle School that they're, they're.
So one of the things that we
backyards
talked about
mess.
is that, no, we don't have that information at this point, but the district is going to invest in sensors that will measure that, both external and internal. Thank you very much. And then we'll be able, and Sergio has picked out 3 locations within the district, 1 in each area with ag land beside it, so that we can, once they're installed, we can come up with, within 45, do a 45-day report that says, yes, there has been a spike in VOCs, okay, something organic, something, right, VOCs, can't get it right now. But anyway, thank you very much, volatile organic compound. So if there was a spray event, we couldn't like say it's Roundup, but we can say that something happened on that day and it made its way onto the classroom, into the campus and onto the classroom. And so we'll be providing that data for analysis as well.
I just have a question. So, I mean, we live in an agricultural community. You're saying that, like, there's never been testing? Like, we don't have any knowledge at any of the schools ever?
To the level in which, so every school in the district has gotten CalShape money, which puts sensors into the classrooms, but they don't have the level of detail to be able to verify that information. And this is a new phenomenon within indoor air quality in schools. And so now there's new companies that are providing robust sensors that allow you to be able to do that. I can tell you typically in the state of California, no one has that. And this is really a new kind of cutting edge that they're investing in and that we're seeing many school districts do
But as
in
far as
that.
like soil testing, they've never done soil testing at any of the schools?
Well, there's soil testing done all the time, but not necessarily for pesticides. And I'm not going to answer the last 20 years. I can't. But we'll find out if it has been.
Well, I'm sure that there are universities like UC Davis and other, universities that are interested in this and would be willing to help the
Yep.
school district with minimal cost because it helps their programs as well to go out. I'm sure, there's other resources out there that would be willing to assist with very minimal cost to the school district if that's a problem that we're running into.
I don't believe this is a problem. I don't know that,
No, I mean,
the whole entire
pesticides are a
district.
problem. We know the
Correct,
cancer
yeah.
rates.
Yeah, that's the whole problem. There's a problem.
For residents is student
Right.
safety.
Right. I think the district's trying to take a proactive step at this time. We'll find out when or where it was done in the past.
Do we have what locations, do we have that already? And if so, when will this sensors be placed?
I'm going to tell you, we're working on it, right? They still have work to do to engage the company and work through it. But we've made contact, we're making contact, we got a proposal, we're making progress. Okay, we're gonna go there, and we're gonna go there, and start writing out your Post-it notes, everybody, start writing out your Post-it notes.
Just, there's existing data though with CARB, so I just would ask that the school district not just rely on their own data, but there's a whole state institution's responsibility on air quality that has always identified our communities as high asthma rates and other things for many reasons, not just potential agricultural impact, so.
I just had a clarification on the agenda for June 10th, not June 1st. The grade level projections for each school, how does that benefit us in terms of our broader discussion? If we've got the general projections, why do we need it by school if we're looking at
So it's
changing
it's the boundary,
but we're looking at changing the boundaries.
Well, you have to start with somewhere. So there's going to be boundaries that are existing that maybe just get bigger. Right?
Yeah.
So we have to come up with Are there students in that area by these types of grades to say that this school can, this area can? Like, there are issues about, major streets, ag issues. We have a map where we have all the ag issues, or all the ag land in the area identified. So it is a starting point, and again, it's important to have the starting point before you do anything else. Okay, so please put those up there. We'll see you back on what day? June 10th. Very good. Put your things out. All questions are great.